I'm thrilled that Tyler Lessard, VP of Marketing and Chief Video Strategist at Vidyard, a leading video platform for business, is here with us today for this bonus huddle. According to his great LinkedIn headline, Tyler is a, and I quote, purveyor of fine content, sales, humor, and creative marketing strategies. He's the head of Sales Feed and the author of The Visual Sale. And one of the things that we talked about in the pre-show is he is Mr. Authentic, and that is what we're going to be today. And we're going to bring it with authenticity. So Tyler, by the way, is a champion of all things video and is here to give us both pragmatic advice on video and help us understand what's around the corner. And with that, hello, Tyler. How are you and where are you?
Hello, Drew. I am so stoked to be here. Thanks so much for having me for this bonus CMO huddle. I am physically in the Toronto, Canada area, which is where I'm based, as well as the fine folks at Vidyard, about an hour west in Kitchener-Waterloo. So that's where I'm coming at you from. Mentally, I'm in a great place this week. There's like so much goodness going on in the space that I'm in. My team's cooking and revving, so I'm super stoked to be here and excited to answer questions that everybody has about using video.
Well, share the goodness. I mean, let's start there. I mean, if you're having goodness, it must mean, video is obviously hot, but what's getting you excited right now?
Well, actually, internally in our business, what I'm really fired up about right now, all of you CMOs can, I'm sure, appreciate this. We're in the midst of, what I would think of as kind of a repositioning of the organization. We're leveling up our messaging. We're expanding sort of our how we think about ourselves in the market, and are really kind of on the cusp of doing some new category building work, which I'm really excited about. It's been about 8-9 years since I've really felt like I've had the opportunity to step back and build down a bigger kind of message strategy and really, expand sort of the categories that we're in. And, sort of the expansion of what we're doing with video tech is actually really driving that, where it's no longer just really about like video, it's about like go-to-market approaches where video is just a key part of that. So anyway, it's super exciting. And, hopefully all of you as well love a good opportunity to reposition, to expand messaging. Don't say rebrand though. Don't say rebrand.
Yeah, no. What have you been reading our recaps? It's funny because that is a word that doesn't always go well with VC or PE capitalized firms. But it also just reminds me that we need to get you officially into CMO huddles because there are several folks that are months or a year ahead of you in terms of repositioning and changing their go-to-market. I imagine they'd have some words of wisdom for you, and it'd be a good exchange because they'll want to pick your brain on doing better with what you guys are experts on. And what's interesting in the way you talked about that, I just want to go there for a second, which is trying to make video a strategy, not an execution.
That's right.
Right. And it sounds like that's what you're thinking about. And the big picture on video is everybody's a creator. Everybody's creating just a ton of content. And, I think the first question that CMO have is there a time when you shouldn't be using video? I mean, it's like, you could do video for everything, right? And so how do you sort it out?
So for me, I think the clear answer is like, no, you should not be using video for everything, which would be a very poor idea for most of us. And what I think about is when it comes to content strategy, when it comes to how you message, we all know that, first and foremost, we have to put ourselves in the shoes of our audience, of our buyers, of our prospects, of our customers. And, I always think about as we embark on our own content, which video is clearly sort of fits into, from a marketing perspective, even when we think about like how our sales team is engaging and messaging and sharing information, we always start there with what is the most impactful, effective, valuable way to deliver this message, to tell this story, whatever it happens to be, for our audience. And we recognize and we understand, well, people, will prefer to consume it in different ways on different channels, depending on a lot of different factors. And so there are many very clear-cut cases where we would say, I mean, this right here, like this absolutely, like video makes sense, right? It's like it needs visuals to create clarity. There's an opportunity here for us to really like hone in a complex message and simplify it and so on. In other cases, it will be like No, like nobody wants to like watch a video for a minute just to get this quick tip. That really should be, a simple post. So there's always a time and place for these different mediums. And I think, one of the things that, not to like shamelessly promote, but that I talk about in The Visual Sale by Tyler Lessard and Marcus Sheridan is what I call the 4 E's of video. And they're what I think are like the superpowers of video. And, I always think about, and we do this in our own team, right? We think like, can this message really be elevated by what video is really good at? And if so, we should strongly consider it as a way to deliver it, or to support that message, or to engage somebody on a video first channel. So anyway, that's kind of
okay, but that's
quick high level answer.
You got me now. I need to know the other E's. So
course.
ease us into it.
All right. Well done. Well played. Well played. So the 4 E's of video, like what words that start with E do you think really identify what those like unique capabilities of video are? Like compared to, if I would say, compared to text, video is really good at blank. Words that start with E. So, all right. Okay, we got some good ones flowing in here. I love it. Engaging, absolutely one of those, right? Like video is unparalleled other than being there in person as a way to create an engaging message, right? And it comes down to all the different factors in it, right? We have the ability to do different types of storytelling, use visuals, audio, we have tone, intonation, but all those things, right? That create a potentially more engaging message. I also see Jay Feller clearly has read my book, because number 2 for me is educate. Video is more educational than other forms of content. And it's because of how our brains process visual and audible information, right? It's also more memorable as an extension to better educating, right? We can learn a lot more from a 1-minute video than we can reading for 3 to 5 minutes. And it's based on how our brains process visual information. And it's not to say that the written content isn't also important, because some people will prefer that or want to be able to skim, right? But video is potentially be more engaging, more educational. Entertaining is a great one as well. I bake that into sort of a combination of engaging and emotional is my sort of leveling up of that. I think video has the opportunity to be more emotional than any other form of content. Right. And that could be entertaining, right? It makes us laugh, it makes us smile, maybe it makes us scared. There's all those things that has the ability to generate an emotional response. And then the last one that I use is empathy. It's more empathetic than other forms of content, because it gives us the ability to tell our stories, deliver our messages in a way that's truly like human to human, that allows us to really transparently talk like a peer to our audience, which is hard to really come through in written and other forms of content. So it allows us to create that more personal connection, right? So those are my 4 E's, the educational, engaging.
Here's my takeaway on this. I'm trying to think of a piece of content that you wouldn't want to educate a target about, that didn't have empathy, that wouldn't have an emotional connection, and wouldn't elevate your story. So in other words, use video all the time is basically the answer here.
I mean, it's funny when I do this to live audiences, I say like, okay, so these are my 4 E's, and there are many more. Like when you do this, you're like, holy crap, it should be like 10 E's. You're right. But like my 4 E's are like educational, emotional, engaging, and empathetic. And then I ask like the audience, I'm like, who disagrees with any of those? Like feels like video isn't any of those more than static information, and nobody raises their hand. And then you say like, so why don't you do more video? Like, aren't these the things you really want to be able to do and accomplish? And so, but the answer, like there's very good answers to that, right? Like video is, it's harder to develop and create than written text and others. We don't typically have people in our marketing team that are trained to do video consistently and at scale. Distribution's a little bit different, and people don't always want to just watch video. And I will again be the first to state that. And so it certainly has to be complemented in your strategy. But I mean, I agree. Like when you think about those superpowers, you're like, yeah, video's always got a place to play. It's just whether or not you think it is the right fit for the kind of message you're delivering.
Okay, so I don't think there's any argument, and I think that the folks here would love to do more video. One of the things I'm expecting is that you all, and you yourself and your team, are really good at creating the right content for the right situation, including video. Can you talk about the role the video plays in your marketing mix and what's working for you right now?
Yeah, so it's certainly, I mean, we certainly use video, quite extensively, but again, in complement to, we've got, written blogs that we really lean into. We've got lots of other forms of content. So we use video in a few different places. And I think, it's no different from many others. We're very active with video now on social media, much more than we were 3 to 5 years ago. We found that certainly all the social media networks have become content platforms, really. And, they all tend to have, we see great engagement in video content, but that's very different video content from a lot of the other things we create. It's built for the different social channels. And over the last couple of years has been like the first time we've really gotten to a point where we are creating video content for LinkedIn, for TikTok, for Instagram, as opposed to like before it was like, hey, we create this video for some other purpose, like a campaign or a blog or something else, and then we reshare it on social. So we're now actively creating consistent video content for the different social media networks. And that's been a really big unlock for our team and doing that consistently.
So that's an insight then, is in an ideal world, you are creating content for the channel and not trying to sort of create once and use everywhere, because what works on TikTok is not what's going to work necessarily on LinkedIn.
For sure. And that's a tough one for a lot of B2B marketers to rally around, because it's like, it sounds expensive. Like that sounds like a lot more people, a lot more work, a lot more effort. And it's also new, right? Like even when I said TikTok, like I assume some of you probably had like a visceral, like physical reaction of like, oh, right. And, not only because you're like, I really don't want to be there. Like, I don't think my audience is there. I hate what it's all about. But also I don't have the people that like, that do that. Like my marketing team aren't like, TikTokers, so to speak, right? And it is a very different skill set to create content for TikTok than other channels. But it's like super liberating when you find that moment when you're like, holy shit, like we can create great content for a network like TikTok or Instagram. And by the way, some of our best LinkedIn content is actually TikToks repurposed over on LinkedIn. We're kind of going the other way. When you start super short form, like that content like works almost everywhere. And so it's like, it's also been this great forcing function to get us to figure out how do we like do great content in like less than 40 seconds. Like, it seems like, what can I really do? And then you're like, oh, it's kind of an unlock and like a forcing function to figure out how to really create a new style of content.
So that's interesting. So if it works in TikTok, it's like if you make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. So if it works in TikTok, because the medium is such a quick link, you have to have a quick grabber. You have to be able to tell the story in a condensed period. It has to be highly entertaining. All of those things that would make TikTok work. Also, at least work in terms of driving views.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think so. And I just want to like emphasize a point there. You said it has to be entertaining, which I don't think it has to be. That's sort of part of our, like, I think previous conceptions of TikTok as like a, place where people post silly dance videos. But the reality is there's just as much pure educational content as there is entertainment content. And so it does have to do one of those things, though. It has to either entertain or educate, and it has to do so very quickly. And grab people's attention. But you're right. I mean, it can be a great way to be able to get people to engage in the content. Is it like, should all of our content be that? Clearly not, right? When people are in the mode where it's like, I want to learn about your new product offering, right? Like, don't give me a bunch of 40-second videos. Like, I want that 5-minute video that goes deep and gives me the deep learning moments. Absolutely, right? So there's all these different modes. But I think like getting good, not just at TikTok, but I actually talk about it just like short form vertical video, right? It's like, TikTok is like a main channel for that, but so is Instagram, so is Facebook, so is LinkedIn, so is YouTube, right? Shorts. And so can be video showing up in your email campaigns or other places, and so on, as a short form vertical video. And it just sort of has a different expectation from people now. They sort of know the format and they know they're in for like a quick burst of goodness. And so it can really work. So that's one thing that we've definitely been doing a lot more of now than we ever have before.
And so assuming that, and it's not even a question of target of Gen Z or millennial or so, for given that TikTok has a pretty big audience, it's really about getting that skill set and perfecting that skill set will make you a better video marketer, is what I'm hearing, which I think is pretty profound. And
it'll make you a better marketer. Like, it'll make you a better marketer, like, period. Right. And again, I think that stuff can carry over in lots of different ways. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so that's an interesting one. It's funny, I'm thinking about the video series. So we have these Tuesday tips, which we record at the end of every huddle, every peer huddle. And what's crazy is the quality of the content is great. The quality of the video is, it's Zoom repurposed. It's not fantastic. and it's not, it's some of them are 4.5 minutes, some of them are 2 minutes, and the length doesn't seem to be a factor, and the quality of the video doesn't seem to be a factor. But what is it's one, it's consistent every Tuesday they come out. Two, the folks that are sharing it are authorities and know what they're talking about. And three, I think I bring a little bit of high energy to those. So there's a little bit of, it's like, well, there's Drew with his hands.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think you raise an important point, is that like, and I say like, that's one area where like doing a lot of is like short form social video. We're also, doing a lot of the, let's call it mid form, 3 to 8 minute, content that tends to be focused more on education. Now we leverage that content across YouTube channels, we leverage it on our blog, and it can be a variety of different sort of, kind of approaches to it. But what I've learned in both of those, whether it's like the 30-second or the 3 to 5 minute, that I think a lot of people do wrong with video today, and I've done wrong myself for many years, is like when they hit that play button, you got to be right into the content, right? Like the days are gone where you click play and then it's like, hey, it's Tyler from Vidyard here. Thanks so much for watching my video. So today I'm here to talk to you. Like by now I'm like, the person's gone, right? And so it's like, and I've learned this greatly from like TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, is that the title of your video, right? Like the thumbnail, some quick text that can pop up at the beginning, that can add all the context you need, right? It's like, they know what it's going to be about. They know who's in it, right? And it's just, you should be right into it. And so even those like 4-minute ones, it's like, always keep that in mind of like, when they click play, you should be right in on the action and let them like, cut into the scene and like start learning or engaging right away, and try to minimize that like intros and stuff. You even see it, we call it on TikTok, there's something called I don't know if they call it the Gen X pause or the boomer pause, but you see videos where like you start to watch it and there's like this like 2 seconds where they're like, they've like hit record, they've stepped back, they're waiting, and like and they're like, no, oh, hey everybody, it's time, and you're like, I'm gone, right? And we got to get better at that as like modern marketers, and it's not just for the young audience, like it's just the content works so well.
So note to team and note to self. So it's like, hey, it's Drew Neiser with another Tuesday tip. I'm here with blank. Let's talk about that, as opposed to here's the topic that what it is. And I get it. So that's we could probably cut 10 seconds from each of those Tuesday tips. Who knows? That could send those things into the stratosphere. Okay, those are helpful. Now you're on the topic of things that people do wrong. Let's go there. Let's go deep on that. What other things are sort of common that you see out there that marketers are getting wrong with video?
Well, it's a great place to pick up, because I think there's like, from a creation standpoint, there's, we make it too long. We think we need a lot of preamble, postamble, things like that in terms of the scripts we create. I think often, again, like still a lot of folks feel like the content needs to have a really high production value for a lot of things we do. I think content quality trumps production quality in most of what we do today. And, more and more people are engaging with, and, content that feels not just more authentic, but just more trustworthy, right? Like, I think that's the big part of it. And so when it's something that is clearly like a written script and so on and so on, and you can see this even in like customer testimonials where you're like, there's a time and place, right? Where we like send down our video producer, we do an on-site shoot, we create this really great story. But we're also always mindful of like, let's make sure we're pulling in that like real human story to make it really relatable. But we also do a lot of testimonials that are like, hey, like really enthusiastic customer, can you just answer these 3 questions? Like just hit record on your phone, answer these, send it on over. Like, I don't care if you're in your office, in your basement, like in a park or whatever it happens to be. And some of those are our best like testimonials that our sales reps use. And they just feel like super authentic. They're clearly not scripted. They're not produced. They're just like real cuts of them, like sharing their own experience in a way that people can really relate to.
So I think authenticity. We're back.
I think so, right? And it's almost like a get out of jail free card for us marketers, where we can go like, hey, cool, like we can actually create the content on a much lower budget because we don't need drones and production agencies. We can do it in a way that's like really just simple and human and raw, authentic. And like it's cheaper, it's easier, and often that content works really, really well and performs just as well.
So length is an esse that things overproduce sometimes can be an issue in favor of more authentic, more content. But again, it's about is what people are saying on camera. That's where the value is. It's not necessarily that the camera is a 35 millimeter, just perfect lighting or everything else. It's what are they saying?
For sure. It's like so
right.
many other things. It's what are they saying, right? And now again, like don't mistake me saying like, oh, it shouldn't be scripted with saying you shouldn't be prepared, right? That is the other mistake. It's like, hey, I'm going to be raw authentic. We're just going to go. We're going to like, no. You still like pre-production is more important. You're like, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to say? What questions are we going to? All those things are super important. But yeah, I think like those are all like really important nuances to it. There was a question about like optimum length, and like there's, the answer is as always like it depends on a lot of things. Generally shorter is better. And that's actually where the other piece, which is like editing, obviously is like really, really important. And I find that that's also where a lot of B2B marketers haven't really kind of developed that like great skill yet of like really great cut down editing. AI tools are actually starting to help out with that, which is kind of neat. Like they're auto like doing cut downs and they're actually working really well. But like, again, like, really respect your audience and go like, can I shave out, like, can I cut out an or an ah here? Like, do we need the first half of that sentence? And when you get really good at like cut down editing, you can take like a 4-minute like customer story and turn it into like a 90-second, like really punchy, sort of like piece that more people are going to end up watching. And it has just as much value and information. You've just like used hard cuts and things like that to like really tighten it up. And I think that's where like, great writers, great video creators are great editors. Yeah.
Yeah. So a couple of things. One, just exclamation point on the preparation that goes into these things. The best quote I ever heard about interviewing is prepare to be spontaneous.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what you do. It's like, I have an outline for the show, but I'm paying attention to everything that you say and trying to be in the moment. And in order to do that, you have to prepare. Second thing is editing. And boy, that applies to everything in the content world, right? And without editors. And I think that, you could just go to, it's like ChatGPT is terrible unless you're a really good editor. Not just a prompt wizard, but a good editor and know how to take something that's average and turn it into something that's really good, which means you understand the topic well enough to pick the salient points and bring it into something. So editing is a skill that I think folks are going to want to be hiring for almost more than classic video skills. And not necessarily that they have to know how to cut, but they have to know. Like they maybe mechanically they know how to do it, but that they intellectually understand the concept. Okay, that's really important. Is there anything else because I do want to get into AI because you've mentioned it.
So let me share one more thing that I find are like people still get wrong with video that I think is really important is I've talked a lot about kind of like what I consider like kind of top of funnel content, if you will, as sort of social media content, a lot of shorter form things. I think the mistake outside of video production that marketers make is only using video as a quote unquote top of funnel medium. And again, if you go back to the fact that video is the best way to educate, engage, create an emotional response, and create empathy, it works so well through the whole buyer's journey, clearly. And some of our best like customers as Vidyard are ones who they think about they think about it through the lens of the buyer again, right? Like my favorite stories are people who have, you look at your website. This is always a fun one to do. Let me actually do a quick exercise here, if you don't mind. This is a fun one. Everybody on the call here, if you could get ready to get your chat fingers going, I want to ask you something right now. Put yourself in the shoes of a B2B buyer and you go to somebody's website to learn more about them. You get the surface level information and now you want to go a level deeper. And there are 2 buttons available on that website. One says book a demo with sales. The other says watch a demo right now. This clearly is a leading question, but I want you to be honest, right? A 1 for talk to sales or a 2 for watch the demo now. So just drop it in the chat, a 1 or a 2. I'm yet to see a 1. Okay. So, okay, point proven, right? Like pretty much all of us, and JD's doing both, I think, a 2+1, like talk to sales and watch the video, which is the smart thing to do, right? Cover all bases. But like point proven, right? Like, so all of us would rather like watch a demo on our time, go deep, be able to replay it, share it with others, than talk to sales. Now, I want to ask all of you to go to your own website. What's the big call to action in the top right corner? Is it talk to sales or is it watch a demo? Do you even have a watch a demo right now button anywhere on your website? Right? Like usually this is like, oh my gosh, Tyler, like this is a thing. Like that's what I would rather do. That's what everybody would rather do. But like nobody, like very few people actually do it. And then we all go, we're like, well, there's reasons we don't have demo videos on our site. We don't want our competitors to see what we do. And like our sales process is entirely built around requesting a demo. So like everything we do focuses on there. And then if I were to say to you, so who's most important? Your competitor, your sales rep, or your buyer? Which one? Who's most important? And if you don't say your buyer, like that's fine, but I'm going to judge you because like the buyer is the most important. And then you say, okay, so what's the best thing I can do for my buyer? It's like put demo videos on my website, let them binge on it, let them see what we do for real, because that's really what they want. And so like if you agree with all that, then you're like, okay, yeah, these are whole, like that's the other area where I'm like, we see great like use of video is like, I want to watch a demo. And yeah, you could put a form in front of it if you really want. Like if you really want to make sure you're getting a good lead that you can nurture afterwards, people will be willing to fill out that form if they know a great set of on-demand demos are behind it. Or don't gate it, like Alan says, and let them binge on it. And if they like what they see, then they book that meeting with sales. And this like works time and time again with like companies I work with, but they're so scared to make that leap because they're like our sales team is going to freak out if we like change the main call to action to watch a demo. So anyway, there are ways to test it and try it, but like it's a great example of like these other use cases from like that on your website down through into making sure you're equipping your sales team with really great video content to support the sales cycle. Because again, when you're in a deal cycle, would you rather have a rep send you a video that explains how their product compares to a competitor? Or would you rather hop on another call so they can explain it live, right? Like we're all going to say, send me the video, let me watch it on my own time. So think about that as a marketer, about how you can use video to create that buying experience that you would want. And like, that's what gets me really fired up, obviously, Drew.
Yes, obviously. And thank you for that moment. So we're going to do a quick speed round where it's just like a short answer. Is shorter better?
Yes.
Quantity or quality?
Yes.
In-house or outsourced?
In-house when possible, and more of it.
Animation versus live action?
Usually live action. There's a place for motion graphic and animation that can work really well. Blending can work really well, but most of it live.
Man or machine?
Woman.
Human or machine?
Human.
Thank you. LinkedIn or TikTok?
Wherever your buyers are.
Okay. All right. But I think we learned something about TikTok today that I think is really important, which is it's a good, if you can make it there, it is a good proving ground that you've got a highly engaging or educational or entertaining video that your target audience may want to watch. Okay, let's talk Gen AI. I mean, we simply can't have a conversation on this show or with marketers right now without thinking about it. I know there are tools available right now where you can put in a little script and a video will magically appear. What is your experience so far with Gen AI created videos? What are you excited about? What's not working? Talk to us.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, like to see all the tech out there right now. And like, there's no doubt in my mind that, generative AI is going to have a big impact on like video creation in the future. No question. Today, there's tools out there to, as you suggested, like take a script and auto-generate a video with like a voiceover of that script. Some of them will like pull in stock footage or things like that automatically that sort of match the topics being talked about. So we've certainly had people who have been like, yep, use this tool just with a script, spits out a 2-minute video, rock and roll, or take this blog post, turn it into a video. So that stuff is out there and people are using it today and it's not bad, right? The videos themselves.
Is there any specific tool that you've tried that you like?
There aren't any specific ones that I personally have, like, I've seen a lot of them. I haven't used any of them in like my own day to day. yet, because I still feel like I'm like, oh yeah, like that's pretty good, but like I could do something better with a little bit more time. And I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I'd be like, I'd rather spend the extra time to do what I want than like sort of use what's generated by these. But it's pretty impressive. There are ones like Synthesia, or another one called Synthesis, which I think is similar, and a couple others that will actually create like avatar based videos. And so it's, again, it's like but it looks like a human, and it probably was originally a human at some point, that is now actually like delivering the information on camera, and their mouth is moving to it and everything. And it looks like pretty good. It still feels a little bit robotic, but like it's bad timing to be talking about this with like the actors and writer strikes, as you're putting people out of business. And I still don't think it's quite there, but for some use cases, like those tools are largely being used for generating like training videos for internal use, as opposed to stuff you're going to be putting out as a marketer. So I feel like we should be like staying on top of it. We should be seeing what's happening. We should be playing with them and sort of be ready for this tipping point to come when this stuff is really going to help us like accelerate video creation as like anything with AI. It's like your sidekick. Our own video producer in-house, he's been playing with a bunch of things. And his favorite tool right now is some of the Adobe stuff that both does like AI-based audio enhancement. So Adobe Podcast is a free and amazing tool to like enhance the audio of any video. It's meant for like podcasts or like, video, like interview recordings, but like any video where you're like somebody's talking, it's amazing. And it uses AI to like remove background, enhance the voice. It's really impressive. And then he also uses the generative AI tools to do backfill and scene fill. So we'll like, shoot something, and then he's like, oh, well, this is going to be a Halloween video, and we want this to be like look like a dungeon, and like the AI tool will create like a dungeon background and things like that. So anyway, lots of neat things like that happening. Definitely worth keeping a pulse on.
I want to go back to, so earlier we talked about editing, and I know in the podcast world that there are tools available. I haven't used them and don't remember the names of it, but I know that the folks at Share Your Genius, who produce our podcast, are using, where they can look at the script that has been, generated by AI, and they can find the you-knows or the ums, and you can take that and delete it from the script, and it will delete it from the audio. I'm imagining that's got to exist already for video as well. Now, I think I heard it's a little kludgy at the moment.
Yeah, there's some really cool stuff out there. The one tool I am somewhat familiar with is called Descript, which is an amazing product, and it will do much of that. So when you say like, yeah, you record the video, it auto generates a transcript, and then you can actually go into the transcript. Not only can you remove ums and ahs, but if you said something like, maybe you said authentic, and then you're like, shoot, I wish I had said raw-authentic. You just like delete authentic, you type in raw-authentic, and it will make your voice say raw-authentic. And like for small changes, it's like completely unnoticeable. Like it's perfect. And so it uses AI to like build a voice model, and then it makes you say that word and the fluidity of everything else. And it like works really, really well. So that is another thing that our internal team is doing now, when we're like, this like product video is now out of date because the price changed, or like the name of this feature changed, or something else happened. In some cases we have to like edit some new video in other cases, he just goes in and says like, make Reva say $2,000 instead of $1,000, and it just does it without her having to re-record it. So some of that stuff is happening, and works pretty darn well.
That's such an interesting use case, because you do whether it's a demo, you record the demo, and then 6 months later you have a whole new set of features, or at least one important one, and you've deleted another one. To be able to go back and fix it, I just think we're going to have to go back to every episode of Renegade Marketers Unite and squeeze in the word authentic. I just can feel that now. Boom. It's going to happen, and we'll use Descript to do that. So
makes it easy.
Thank you. I don't know if the team will thank you, but I do, because that's exciting. But no, I love that retro, and I think it's important to look at the videos on your website and look at them and see, are they still relevant, and could they be updated easily with a tool like that? I have a feeling, and I'm going to guess, we just did this copy test, man versus machine. It should have been human versus machine, so it's non-gender, but where the AI alone couldn't generate good enough quality to drive, in this case, SEO, visibility, keywords. It just didn't work as well. I suspect that's the case today for video generated that way. However, the difference though here is in the video case, it's in theory, you're putting your script. You're not asking it to create a script unless you use generative AI to create the script for you, in which case now you're really at a low common denominator. But if you started with your own content and then you had it at least, like, as you said, in training video, it might be good enough. The avatar thing, I noticed at a conference we were at in Boston, and they had an avatar and it never smiled.
Yeah.
It was really, and it was kind of icky. It's like,
it's a little off-putting when you like watch some of that, for sure. It's that stuff is like, it's getting better like literally every week right now, and it's still a little off. Here at Vidyard, we're doing a lot of experimentation in the back end, and in addition to having an awesome like video hosting and analytics platform, we also have like video messaging tool that sales teams use, right? So record and send a custom video and use it lots of places in the sales cycle. And we've been playing with different generative AI tools to solve the problem of, which we hear from a lot of sales reps, of like, yeah, I want to send a video, but I don't want to have to make one. Like, it's either like it takes too much time, or I don't know what to say, or like I don't want to have to brush my hair today, whatever it is. And so like we've got like working in the lab a tool, like it's in my own Vidyard instance now. Like when I fired up Vidyard for the first time with the new version I had, it asked me to like speak to the camera for about a minute, so that it could then build a model of both my face and visually, as well as my voice. And once it had done that, I can now go in, put in a script, much like you were talking about earlier, and generate a video. But in this case, now it's actually me delivering it on the camera. So you generate the video, and now it's like, hey, Drew, Tyler from Vidyard here. Thanks so much for having me on CMO Huddles or whatever. Right. So like we're at a point where I can just type that out and generate the video, and it's me saying it. And it's pretty good. Like, it's pretty darn good. It's still a little off-putting. Like, there's times where like your ears suddenly cut off, or your mouth does this weird like Joker face, but like it's really close and like miles ahead from where it was even like 4 months ago. So it's like, it's happening. I'm still on the fence of like, is this technology for good or evil? I'm not sure yet. But if it like helps people scale delivering their message in a more personal way, I think we'll have to let the viewers be the judge of it, but it's happening. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is one of my questions, because, the promise of mass personalization via video is one that, I think like a Sunday Sky has been trying to address, but it's pretty crude at least the last iterations I was looking at. Whereas like you work, your telephone company sends you a video message that said, hey, your bill, or your electric company does it. Here's your bill, and here's how many hours. And by the way, Joe, you could have saved this amount of money, that kind of personalization. But what you just described has the opportunity to be, one-to-one on a, but a relatively, because you could do that for 100 different prospects that you want to call, and if you were a salesperson, you could do those pretty quickly. Is that where this mass personalization is going to come from, or some other tools?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see, right? Because like to your point earlier, the tech also exists to write that script for the video with AI, right? And you plug those into tools that can do a huge amount of like online research of somebody, like literally in like nanoseconds, right? So it's not far off from where I can say, make a video for Drew, and it will figure out, it knows, it goes online, it figures all sorts of things about you, it writes a script, and then it makes a video. And sure enough, there I am saying, hey, Drew, I noticed from your, LinkedIn profile that you're hiring for 2 new video producers. And, I was wondering if you're going to need a good video hosting platform, right? And it's like, we're like not far off from it being able to connect those dots, create a message that's relevant, and generate a video. Now, again, is that like going to be a big thing? Is that like, I don't know yet. We'll see like how well they really work. And like, we'll ruin video. Like we ruin everything, right? Like marketers, salespeople, we've ruined email, we're ruining content. We're going to ruin video at some point with these sorts of things. And so the mission is to like use it effectively before somebody ruins it by saying, everything video.
It is kind of the opposite of authentic, I got to tell you.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I wonder is, do you need to protect yourself from that? You know, it's one thing, you and I are talking here, we could hashtag human made and there would be no question about it, that it's you or me, we're having a conversation and this audience is all here. But if you went that way, do you need to identify it and say, cyber enhanced, AI enhanced? Right.
Yeah.
So that at least you're calling out the fact that you're using a tool like this. And it is interesting. How do you, just thinking of sort of tools that I use on occasion to personalize, but it takes time, is like Loom. And, there's like it might be the landing page of CMO huddles, and I might send somebody who's new to the community, hey, just wanted to give you a quick overview on how you can register for a huddle. What's your feeling on that platform specifically and the use of it?
Yeah. So very familiar, because Vidyard is used in a very similar way. Like we have more or less the same tool as what you would use Loom for, to record a video, post it somewhere, send it one-to-one, whatever it happens to be. And like what we're seeing today is like both marketers and sales teams are using that for both like one-to-many and one-to-one, right? And it definitely adds the like human element to those messages. And the one-to-many, to your point today, is still like very much, it's a general message, but it's now going from like it being written on a page to you actually being able to see and hear the person deliver it. They get to add the body language, the intonation. You get to feel a little bit more, who they really are. And maybe there's a bit of that empathy and trust that comes along with it, right? So like in the sales example, we see folks who will be like, okay, so I sign up for that, or I watch that demo on your website now that you're putting up there, all of you wonderful CMOs. So I go to your website, I click watch a demo, I watch the demo, and I fill out the little form that says, yeah, I'm interested in learning more. Now, the automated email that typically comes after that saying, hey, thanks so much, like here's a link to book some time with Trevor from our team or whatever, is usually a pretty basic email that doesn't really stand out, that doesn't really make a memorable first impression, it's not that like engaging and so on. So like one simple small step is now that email has a video from Trevor that it's not personalized yet, right? It's just like, hey, it's Trevor, here at whatever it is. Thanks so much for watching the demo on our site. I hope you learned a couple of things. Curious if it sparked any ideas or questions. I'm here to help you out as you go on your journey. So please let me know what questions it sparked for you, right? So even like a short video like that, at least now humanizes the message a little bit and creates a bit of more of that like one-to-one connection. So you're adding a bit of personality to it while it's still not yet personalized. And then that next step is, oh, okay, it's actually a video from Trevor where he said, hey, Drew, thank you so much for coming to our website. I noticed you only watched half of the demo video. Curious if it lost your attention or you were only interested in what we talked about. So I think those things are like, they're happening. They're creating that more personal connection when more and more stuff is going like digital and offline. So I think there's a huge role for that. And then, the question is, how does that pair up with like Gen AI to make that automated? We'll see.
Yeah, it's funny as you're talking, I'm thinking about, so email has been, let's face it, we all get way too many. But when I see a little video GIF of someone and it's got, hey, Drew, they literally have a little sign that says, hey, Drew, and they're holding it like this. And it's like, and you're not hearing it. It's so hard not to click on that.
Yeah.
And then all they did was they have a little blackboard and they wrote Drew on it and they hold that up at the beginning of the video and then they record the video and boy, that it's just, it's like, it's just hard to ignore. There it is. Hey, Drew,
right?
Look at that.
I mean, and you can tell my like marker is even like out of ink. It's like, I've used it so much.
Yeah. So that's a technique. So, but again, I think that a lot of this is about and not or. This is about combination. This is trying to get more out of email by adding video to it. This is about getting more out of video by editing a little bit more, about thinking about where it fits along the way. You've already made the point about having a good demo. The one thing that's tricky, I think, with videos, with the exception of the demo, which everybody pretty much is very clear that that's an interested person, is how do we assign metrics and value to video? And it's, whereas like a form fill, easy to add value in theory. To me, a name is useless, but it feels like it's value. How can CMO defend an impression, a play? What do you look at for metrics that really would be valuable and track to indicate that your video was worth creating?
Yeah, it comes back to mapping it to the underlying goals, right? So you have to be careful not to just have video metrics for the sake of videos. And being mindful of like, we're making and sharing this video for one of potentially several reasons. It might be to create more engagement within our existing community, because we know more engagement leads to more followers, more conversion, whatever it happens to be. It might be we're trying to drive, again, more like community growth. It might be we're using this video to generate an actual like, I want to talk to sales action. It might be we're using it in the sales process to help a seller be more efficient. So, it's hard to like think in that way, because you're like, oh, well, I just want to measure all my videos in one way. But the reality is that's how you've got to think about it. And so, we look at, I call it the 3 R's, another, 3-letter thing that I use, and it's reach, resonance, and return. And so those are typically one of the things we will measure. So reach is views, right? Like, did this, get the reach that we were really looking for? And that's typically, I only care about that for like top of funnel stuff. It might be things on our YouTube channel or others. There's a lot of factors that go into it. How well was it promoted, all of those things, but it is one metric to be mindful of if it's meant to be something to get broader reach. Resonance is engagement. So are we seeing people, like, what's the average engagement in that video? Are we seeing people who start, get all the way to the end? How long are they watching? That tells me, are we hitting the mark in terms of the content quality, right? And more resonance, AKA more engagement, equals more likely that person's going to hear the message we wanted them to hear and convert downstream. So if you can show high engagement in that content, that's really important. And then the third is return. And that's where it's like, well, what were you really trying to accomplish downstream? So did this video or these videos, contribute to driving that next step, whether it would be requesting a demo or a sales call? Maybe it was something that was then linked to, signing up for a product or whatever it happens to be. So you have to think about it in that way, like any other piece of content. You can't just bucket video into one big thing.
Yeah, it's I always like using this analogy. When a sale happens and the salesperson had taken the customer prospect out to dinner, was it the drink? Was it the steak? Was it the chocolate mousse that helped convert the sale? And the answer is yes. And who cares? But I think the return thing is interesting, because there will be tools, and there's manual tools today, where you could look at your last 50 customers and see what video, if any, they did watch. If you can track that through, and if all of them watched the demo video, then something pretty important. Okay, so with that, Tyler, thank you so much for being on the show and being with us here today. Where can people find you?
Oh, it was just so much fun. Thank you, first of all, for having me. This was a really great conversation. LinkedIn, like everyone, please connect with me on LinkedIn. And honestly, if you have like any questions about this stuff, just DM me, feel free, and I will do my best to respond.
Thank you so much, Tyler. I really appreciate it. And we'll be talking soon.
Wonderful. Well, thank you.